Electric Jam Podcast.
Greetings and salutations, everyone. Welcome to the Electric Jam Podcast. I'm Christopher, and I'm here with Richard, as usual. If you don't know who we are, check out our website in the description of the podcast. Electric Jam has guitar reviews, gear testing, and tons of info on recording. Richard, how are you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Got a new microphone as well.
I know, you sound so good.
So clear.
It
4K.
is.
4K, Richard.
It's 5K, at least.
5K, yeah. Lock up your doors, either way.
All you guitar news is belong to us.
But yeah, we got a couple of things to talk about today. We want to talk about, and this is only a problem if you've really been paying attention, especially on Reddit, I've noticed, the Dave Grohl guitar issue. So the thing is we've been waiting for literally forever for this guitar to come out. And now it's finally came out, and a lot of reviewers have got them, and they've been fine. But I think I counted 19 or 20 different pictures on Reddit where people have received them and the headstock is broken. And I have a theory about why that's happened. Like, either cracked or it's completely off.
Ooh, okay. That's not what you want.
No, not at all.
So what's your theory on this?
My theory is I think that dealers are taking pictures of the guitar that they're selling, which is a really good practice. Instead of just putting up the stock photo and saying, hey, buy this for $1,400, they actually take a picture of the guitar that you are buying. And I think that that's a really good practice. Sweetwater does this.
Yeah, definitely. Because especially if you're getting a lot of clicks through from like Google images and stuff, it's going to massively increase your click-through rate because people respond better to non-stock images.
Exactly. So to do that, though, you have to unbox the guitar. And there's a great video on Sweetwater's YouTube channel where they take Polyphia through their entire process. And the two guys from Polyphia are like, this is crazy. We had no idea this is what goes into buying a guitar. And what they do is they take it out of the case, they take it out of the box, they take the pictures, and then they put it back in the case, reseal the box, and they ship it to you. And I think what's happening is there's probably a little piece of bubble wrap inside that case or some kind of protective material that's stopping the headstock from getting any pressure on it. Because otherwise, I think these boxes are being shipped without that protection. And the case kind of, if there's one little impact on the case, it's going to hit it. And if it hits it right in the right place, it's going to crack the headstock. And if it doesn't crack it, it'll break it completely off because of the neck angle.
So is there any like word on the retailers that it's coming from? Is this in the UK or is it US or?
So far, it's been all over the world. The pieces that I've seen on Reddit.
Okay, but that would imply that it's it's potentially a problem from multiple different retailers all doing the same thing.
Right, and
Which
the only
begs
place
the question, why don't you just buy one to take pictures of and not use them, one you're going to ship out to somebody?
Well, I mean, that's kind of Sweetwater's thing. They take a picture of the exact guitar that you're going to buy, the serial number, they weigh it, they show every single part of the guitar, because I mean, some people are super picky. Like,
oh right, okay,
they'll go through 8 different of those Dave Grohl models, and one of them might have a slightly darker or slightly lighter fretboard, and that's the one that they want to buy.
Oh, wow, there's a whole new level to guitar buying that I simply didn't know existed. I usually just go on and go, that's the one, I'll buy that. That looks fine. It's got the right name and everything.
Well, I mean, if you buy it from a bigger dealer like Guitar Center, they're just going to ship it to you straight from the warehouse. So that's probably your safest bet if you want one of the Dave Grohl models right now, is to order it from like American Musical Supply or Toman or Guitar Center, because they don't take anything out. They're just going to ship it directly from the warehouse. Here's the guitar.
Safely stock photos, that approach.
Exactly, yeah.
You can break anything doing stock photos. That's the thing. It's a bit cheaper as well. So But I get it. I do get it. It's a nice touch, particularly on like more expensive models. You kind of want that more kind of personalized touch.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I get why Sweetwater does it, and they do it for every guitar that's over $500. So I get why they do it, and it is kind of a personal experience because when you do buy from them, I used to get all of my Ibanez 7 strings from them, and they would like send me a Glamour shots photo of it when they shipped it to me. Yeah, it really is, but it's got like a background like you see, school photographers using.
Yeah, it's not your Ibanez and some like assless chaps or something.
Right. But yeah, it's like a Glamour shots photo of here's your guitar, and it should be arriving soon. I get it, and I like Sweetwater for that. I think that that's really cool because they do give you the choice. They let you pick out the lightest guitar, the heaviest guitar, or whatever you're looking for. But when you repack it, I think you have to repack it exactly the way that it came.
Sorry, that's my phone. That's a professional error right there. I thought I put it on Do Not Disturb. Sorry, that's a terrible thing to do, isn't it?
That is awful.
It's highly unprofessional. I did my computer.
I'm leaving it in.
Yeah, no, leave it in. Leave it in. It adds a level of reality to it. No, because when I do my computer, usually it does my phone as well because it knows it's nearby. And it's an Apple computer, so it's clever like that. But it obviously hasn't done it this time. So sorry about that. And I've got the stock ringtone as well. I haven't changed it either. So
you're so basic, man.
Yeah. Well, no one ever changes. There's a thing about this. No one ever changes the alarms and stuff on iPhones, but people with Android phones tend to change their alarms and stuff. So if you set an alarm on iPhone, it's like the standard iPhone one, which is this horrible like ringing that just jolts you out of bed, whereas the one on Android is this like soft like kind of just like coaxes you out of sleep. So that's just like a weird little tidbit there, a little segue into nothing.
That is true. But yeah, so if you're gonna buy a Dave Grohl guitar, I mean, hopefully you're one of the lucky ones and you don't get the broken headstock, and they're not all like completely broken off. But a lot of them,
and they're going to replace it as well. It's not like, oh no, that's it. You're stuck with a broken guitar. We'll send you some glue. Like they'll replace everything. Obviously, they're not just going to.
But you might have to wait.
It's not. Well, yeah, you'd have to wait. Yeah, but you've waited 151 years according to Epiphone. So that's another month.
I mean, yeah, I think the first batch is done, so it might be 2 or 3 months before you get a new one. So that's kind of a bummer if you've been waiting and you saved up. But if you've waited, I mean, we've waited 10 years for this, at least. So what's another 3 months?
Yeah, I agree. But I think it's, unfortunate, but, hey ho.
It's just a weird problem for them to have because none of the other Epiphone models have had this kind of release. I mean, all of the Adam Jones Les Pauls that came out, they came out perfectly.
The only thing I could think of is if they were expecting to be shipping an absolute metric ton of these things, they've slightly changed the way they do it. So they've, with the logistics companies, they might have taken on another logistics company or used some kind of new packing technique to sort of like get more in a van or something. You just don't know. Like there could be something to that, because if the volume is going to be so much higher than usual, then it might have necessitated a different or more kind of logistic companies involved in like trucks and whatnot. And they might have just used someone who was just sort of like, where do you want it in it? Yeah, there you go, bang, it's in. and then just drove off. So you just don't know. There's loads of moving parts with stuff like this. So,
That's true.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. But, like I say, it'll get fixed. It's not the end of the world.
So have you seen that Pod Express that just came out?
Yeah, I have, yeah. Yeah, I've been looking at that this week, actually. They
have them for guitar and bass. And
yeah, I'm kind of looking for this. Is kind of something I'm really like looking at. I'd something like this, something small, something portable. It's got a load of stuff on that I can just sort of jam out with. Because I've been really nasty about the Fender Mustang Micro before on this podcast, and I actually found mine in a drawer. I thought I'd lost it or my dog had eaten it or something, but I found it and I was like, you know what? I'm going to give this another whirl, and I did. And it has a feature that me being the thoroughly investigative journalist that I am, I didn't know it had, because it's got Bluetooth, but you can't attach Bluetooth headphones to it. And I was like, well, what the hell's it got Bluetooth for then? But because you can pair your phone to it, so you can like run drum tracks through it or a backing track or anything, which is really cool. And it is really cool. It's really useful. But I didn't know you could do that, even though I covered the launch. Obviously, wasn't listening very well. And yeah, it's actually really useful. And once you get used to the stupid way you have to like set it up and put the sounds, do the amps, sims and stuff, it's actually pretty damn good. So yeah, I've been messing around with that, and it's kind of got me thinking, because I'm really lazy with how I play at the moment. I just kind of like, if I've got like 10 minutes, which is basically all I usually have, like free time in a day, I will literally just sit down with my guitar. I don't care if it's plugged in or if it's in the kitchen or if it's in my office, and just sort of have a little play around, and that's it. So I was just like, you know what, I'm going to do that. I'm going to get that, stick that Fender Mustang Micro in it and start using that. And I have been all week, and it's really good. So like loads of stuff that I've been like messing around with without having any amplification on it. So it obviously sounds completely different. And I was like, oh my God, it sounds completely different to how it sounds in my head constantly. So yeah, it's kind of got me thinking about stuff like this. And then I saw this Line 6 Pod Express, and I was like, this looks really cool. Some kind of like portable little thing you can use. And it's got the Helix in it too, the Helix software, which is really cool.
Right. Yeah, it's using Helix sounds. And I was thinking, for someone that really wants to get into recording guitar for the first time, using that and an interface might be better than using a plugin, because I've been playing with STL tones a lot, and I've been playing with Revolver, which is a newer thing by In Music Brands, and they make BFD drums and all kinds of other stuff. And Revolver is amazing. Like, they have the actual amps on there, like actual PV amps and stuff like that.
No way. They're not called like Povey.
Right. No silly names. It's mainly, it's mainly for PV and for the 5150 and 6505 and, really good metal amps. But there's something about the latency that I just can't get used to when it comes to plugins. I don't mind using them when I'm recording to get a quick tone, but just sitting there playing along to a track or something, like even at the very lowest latency, I mean, my computer is a total powerhouse, right? Even at the lowest latency, there's still like that millisecond of hitting the string and then hearing the sound.
And you notice it's palpable as well, because it's a lot of the time, like say when you're playing as well, it's not just the tone and like it's the feel, like the feel, and it's it being plugged into that mix or that beat. If something's slightly off, it's like when you go and see a band live or you're playing live, and you suddenly notice that you're like slightly out of tune, like ever so slightly, and it just throws everything off because it adds this. Excuse me. It just the feel just goes instantly. It just feels wrong. There's an otherness to it that shouldn't be there if you want to be in that flow state, which you do when you're playing and when you're recording.
I thought I was like crazy, and over the last year, I've really started to notice that with plugins, and I thought I was absolutely insane until an Andertons video came on, and it was Captain Lee meeting Nick Johnston for like the third time, which is funny. But Nick Johnston was talking about that, how he had a neural DSP profile, based on all of his Mesa settings. And he tried recording with it for a while, and he tried playing with it for a while, and he's like, it's good, if you just want to plug in and kind of jam and everything, but he's using real amps again in his studio, so it's not just me.
Yeah, I think that's the point, isn't it? They're not these kind of like plugins and whatnot. While they're being marketed heavily by, professional musicians, they're most of the time they're not going to be. Someone says to you, "Look, we've got this little teeny little box and a MacBook here, or we've got this massive rig of tube amps and cabs out back and some pedals." Which you're going to go with the amps, aren't you?
Oh yeah.
You're not going to go, oh, I'll go with a MacBook. You know, can I pair my phone to it? It's just, these are for hobbyist players, obviously. Like, that's what amp sims are for. They're not for, anyone with any sort of aspirations of being a professional player. And I know pro people do use them, but I think generally speaking, the kind of market appeal of them is to hobbyist guitarists to get that ridiculous, to get that as close to the sound you would get from $8,000 worth of gear for
exactly
$10 a month. That to get you on the way there. It's not going to be the same. It's not going to sound the same, and it's not going to really feel the same. But I think that's the point. There's a lot of things lost in translation when you switch over to digital. And this happened with music when from going from the vinyl to CDs. People were like, it doesn't feel the same. It doesn't, because with vinyl it's a physical, mechanical act. That's creating the sound and moves the air differently.
And now here I am buying CDs again because streaming doesn't sound the same.
You just get Tidal. Tidal's high def. It's more expensive, but they've got more music and it's high definition, and they pay their artists more money.
I didn't know that. I didn't know about Tidal.
So if anyone from Tidal is listening and you want to sponsor the podcast, I will happily talk about Tidal for 5 minutes every week. Yeah, because their whole point.
But this is a good bridge for that.
It's what I mean. That's what I mean. It's they saw what Spotify was doing. That opened the floodgates. Like we talked about this last week. Spotify, they don't pay artists any money at all. It's disgusting how little they pay them. Tidal pays more, and the sound quality is better. And they also do a lot of work with artists and up-and-coming artists too. So it's kind of like a real holistic approach to it. It's much, obviously they still don't pay them enough, but they pay them more than Spotify. So, and it's high definition.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's awesome.
It's all high definition. I think they have 3 different modes, and you get all the way up to like hi-fi Sirius, which is like the top one.
I might have to download it and try it out then, because I'm kind of tired of Spotify. It's so compressed, especially in the car. And that's why, I want CDs anyway, because I like the physical media aspect of them. But I also noticed, like, playing them back to back, the CD does sound a whole lot better. There's so much more to it, and it's not as compressed. Yeah. So,
no, sure. Well, I used to have my old car. I used to have 3 CDs, because they're the only 3 CDs I still have. And I used to have Jane Doe by Converge.
Great choice.
Lamb God. The second, what's it called? The one with not the first, not As the Palaces Burn. It was the one that came out afterwards.
Sacrament.
No, before that. It was where the production went from pretty suspect.
Does it have Ruin on it?
No, that was As the Palaces. That's the Palaces Burn, I think. Huh. I don't know. It was the one that came out in 2007, 2008. So I had that, and I think the other one was Dark Side of the Moon. So I had a nice little selection of music, and they sounded great. I always forget how good stuff sounds on a CD, and that's not even through a bad stereo as well. So, but if it sounds good through a stereo in a car, it sounds good anywhere.
But yeah, that's kind of my to circle back around. We kind of went off topic there for a second, but to circle back around, that's kind of my problem with amp sims. I think that they're good. I think that they're a good tool, but I think something like the Pod Express, where you have 0 latency at all, it's almost like playing through a real amp, because I still play through my Pod HD. I don't have my Helix anymore, but I had the Pod HD because I have 3 or 4 patches on there that I use on recordings for real. And not having that latency there, it's almost like playing with an amp. So instead of getting an amp sim, I think something like the Pod Express would be perfect for someone who is starting out. Because there's not
$179 as well, so it's not even expensive.
And there's not 10,000 options like the Helix.
No.
You have
delay,
a few.
Distortion.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of all you need, really. And then you can, but it's it's getting that clear, clean signal that's kind of not without the latency. That's going to help a lot.
Definitely.
Because I remember the first time I plugged in, like, my friends this was years ago, was showing me some, I think it was Guitar Rig. I can't remember. Is that a thing? Is that a real thing?
Yeah. Yeah, it came
that's
with
what it
Apple
was.
computers.
Yeah, he had that, like a cracked version of that, and he was just showing it to me, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I didn't even know. I didn't even know this existed. I was like, what? So what? The amps just in your computer? And he was like, yeah. I was like, wow, my mind's slightly blown. And then so I had to go, and because his computer was an absolute pile of rubbish, the latency was insane. It was like having like a delay pedal. Like the computer was acting as a delay pedal. And it's just like you'd hit the string, and then about a second later it'd go boom. So I was like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, that was my first experience with latency and computer software amplifiers. So yeah, and stuff. It's come on a lot since then. I mean, I use like STL, like amp hub and stuff like that. But yeah, I do prefer just to plug it into something properly and just it being, I hit the string, it makes a noise like instantly. There's no like sort of missing bit or enough for me to, because it throws you off, even if it's a microsecond. I mean, they've studied this in, multiple data studies have shown this, that human brain picks up things way quicker than we're consciously aware of. So for instance, you could be shown a series of flashing images and your heart rate will increase, billionths of a second before something nasty shows up, like it knows. So, a latency of, even if it's like, say, like hardly there at all, it's still going to really like put you off your stride.
Yeah. And it does. And it's something that I only really noticed in probably the past year or so. And it's only when I'm recording, really, because I've got that metronome going. And that little millisecond changes everything. But yeah, something
huge.
like the Pod Express it is huge.
Well, the millisecond on a click track, 180 BPM, is a lot. That's a big chunk of time.
Yeah. So for rhythm tracks, it's not that hard. But playing solos, especially if I'm doing something fast like tapping, it just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I agree. I think something like this is great. I mean, I really like Line 6 anyway. I quite like all their products. But this one's really cool. And it's kind of like, say, it's like the Boss, isn't it? The Boss one that came out the other week.
The Boss IR, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's exactly like that. It's like a little amp sim in a box, but yeah, without the latency or anything. Which is a good segue into our main topic today, because I'm already thinking about buying one of these. And I don't have the money for it. And that's our main topic today. Our main topic is gear acquisition syndrome. It's something that we call GAS. And if you've been in any guitar forum in the past 12 to 15 years, you've probably seen the term before. And someone will be like, I don't really need this, but I've got GAS for it.
I've never, ever come across that term. I was reading the notes before we started, and I was like, what the hell's this? GAS.
Yeah, so it's
and then you literally just said it's okay. We'll get to it. We'll go over it in the podcast. And I was like, well, I don't know what it is. So that's how prepared I am for this.
I mean, so gear is really important to have, but the way that marketing cycles work now, and it didn't used to be this way because we didn't have YouTube reviewers, we didn't have influencers and stuff like that. It's like a constant lust for new gear. And every one of my guitar students has this problem. Every single one of them.
I wonder why.
Where they watch, YouTube for an hour or two a day. And that in itself, there's nothing wrong with it. But not realizing that that's basically, 2 hours of ads you watched. Did they take the guitar apart and tell you if it's good or not? Yeah, they did. Someone like Phil McKnight does that kind of stuff where he gets a guitar in, he takes it apart, he tells you what's wrong with it, what's good about it. That's good information to have, but not if you're not going to buy the guitar. And over the past, year or two, I found myself doing the exact same thing to where I'm watching a review on a guitar that I know I'm not going to buy. Like I know 110%, I'm never going to buy that guitar. Yeah, but I'm watching the review on it.
we're kind of in a, I mean, we do it for a living. So we have a site, we have to do news, we have to cover it. So I get the different strokes, and it's hard. I think it's hard for, because I started my professional life as like a consumer electronics journalist. So like basically like a tech journalist. And so I've kind of seen this lust over technology kind of develop. It's really weird because it's only happened in the last sort of 15 years or so, with like the rise of smartphones and all the supplementary tech that came with them and stuff. Because I was there, like that was my first job. I think I started a year before the first iPhone. No, before the iPhone 3GS came out. So it's quite a long time ago. And it went from the phase, and this was only in a few years, where I'd speak to people at like a party and stuff and be like, oh, what'd you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a tech journalist to write about, like phones and gadgets and stuff like that. And they were like, what do you mean? No one cares about that. And I was like, you will, don't worry, you will. And then, 5 years later, it's like, everyone's like, wow, that's the coolest job ever. You get to like test stuff out and things. But when I first started, people just thought it was a joke. They were just like, no one cares about that. No one cares about gadgets, phones and stuff. And now, everyone does. It's like one of the biggest, driving traffic forces on the internet. But it does start this like thing. You get obsessed with it, with the tech. And the reason people are obsessed is because companies spend tens of millions of dollars every year hawking new products to you that you don't need. Like phones are a great example of that. If you've got an iPhone and you update it every single year, I mean, most people don't do that, but some people do. And that's insane.
Oh, I know plenty of people that do.
It's absolutely nuts. Like, it's absolutely nuts. Like, phones are so ridiculously overpowered now for what people use them for. It's the equivalent of having like a 1,000 horsepower engine in, a Nissan Micra. It's just ridiculous. Like, you can't use anywhere near of it for like, you go on Snapchat, you go on Instagram, you go on TikTok, you send IM, you go on the web browser, you watch YouTube videos. You don't need 12 gigabyte of RAM for that. I'm sorry. It's just ridiculous. But people think you do, and they'll be like, oh, if you get a phone that's like 500 quid, they're like, oh, you got a cheap phone. And it's like, well, it's a phone. It's not a gaming rig computer or even like a work computer. It's just, and it's happened. I can see it happening now. It happens with guitar gear and stuff because these companies are like, oh, we can just keep making stuff and selling things. Then they're going to, because that's basically how capitalism works. And I think that's why you see a proliferation of products and also marketing. But the weird thing is the tribal element with it. You get people adhering to brands, and then they'll like start shouting at each other and arguing about who's the best. You probably people who have like line 6. They're like, no, the boss IR, and then no, line 6. And they just argue amongst themselves, which is free advertising for these companies.
It is,
and it's nuts. I do the same as well. I'll just watch videos on guitars that I'm never going to buy. Like I'll watch it and I'll be like, oh, right, okay. But I mean,
we're doing it for stories, though. We're doing it so we could write it on the website and tell people about them.
Yeah, we have to be informed. Yeah, but it's when you.
Even when I'm not doing that aspect of our job, when I'm not researching, I still find myself watching or listening to stuff, and it's like, why am I even listening to this? I'm not going to buy this, And the phone thing is a really good analogy. My girlfriend, Fran, she has a friend who will remain unnamed, but she's one of those people who buys the new iPhone every single year. Every single year.
Absolutely
and
bonkers.
I have a friend who I'm not going to mention who recently got the Pixel 8. And I was like, why did you get it? He was like, because I was using the Pixel 7. And I'm like, yeah, but I've got the Pixel 6. Still does the same thing, man. Like,
more or less,
what are you doing?
I know the difference in the updates is it's with phones particularly, it's kind of, it's kind of evened out now. They're all kind of basically the same. Like they have more power than you ever need, or that's why the camera is such a big part of it now. It's because the camera tech's the only thing they can keep innovating on, like actually make noticeable difference.
I'm so glad that you said that, because guitar technology, we're kind of at a singularity with that also, to where affordable guitars can rival expensive guitars. affordable amplifiers like the Boss Katana can rival, a Marshall JCM. And you might be laughing listening to this, but if I did 2 clips back to back, could you tell me which one was the Katana and which one was the JCM?
Exactly.
You can
in
on
a mix
recording.
as well. You do it in a mix, good mix, master it. No one's going to tell the difference.
I mean, the only difference is, the feel for the user. But
Which is subjective, but a good point, though, I would make. Because, he's talking about, it's almost like the latency thing as well. People get comfortable with what they're doing. But I think half the problem is the way that companies market, particularly guitar gear. It's all endorsements and stuff. It's like, hey, I'm in this huge band. I use this. This is how I get my tone. And it's like, no, you don't. You use something completely different. You use really expensive stuff. And, you're not using a little amp. You might use it a little bit, but you're not really. You're using your amp stacks and your tube amps and, because these amp companies all need to make money. So they want to get their gear in the hands of these big, significant, notable artists as well. So there's that element of it too. So I just think people kind of get ahead of themselves. It's easy to get ahead of yourself and be like, oh, if I get this, then I'll have this sound. And if I get this, it's all about chasing that. One, there's like ease of use. So, I want to be able to record at home. So I need X, Y, and Z. And then you'll try X, and then it's not very good. So you have to swap it out for like X-1. You try another product, and that one's okay. So you move up the chain to the second bit, and then you try a few of them. So for instance, like USB interfaces, there's bloody loads.
right.
There's so many. But they all kind of do. It's a USB interface. It's like the dullest thing on the planet. But there's so many of them. So how do you choose one? So then you go down this rabbit hole of YouTube watching, people Paige Shills kind of talk about which is the best one ever. The stupid shocked face thumbnail things. Whereas you just go, screw it. I'll just get the the focus right. That seems fine. Everyone uses that.
Right.
You
Gets
kind
the
of
job done.
yeah. You kind of it's almost like it's. I mean, this is like the overarching theme so far of all of our podcasts is that if you kind of just spent more time just playing than worrying about your gear, you'd probably be A lot happier, B a lot richer, and C a lot better on guitar.
110%. Yeah.
Take it back to basics. I think that's the thing. It's cool to have fun gear. It's cool to have gear and stuff, and it's fun to test new things out. But it's at the end of the day, so you say you get that paralysis sets in where you're just swimming in an ocean of gear and effects and plugins, and you haven't got anything to creatively. You haven't got anything to show for it. Like I'd rather have like an acoustic guitar and a banged up microphone and a 4-track and like make some stuff than spend 12 months trying to worry about what about this, and I need this, and I need a 7-string for that bit, and it's just nonsense. People don't care about that. Like proper artists don't care. They just the artist is the music. It's the creative process and creating with what you've got. Like look at like Mac DeMarco. Watch there's so much stuff that he's filmed of like filming and making his albums and stuff on YouTube, and he literally just makes it in his dingy little flat with all this crap equipment, and it sounds amazing. And he sold millions of albums
because it's the songs.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. He writes awesome songs. Like even the Gorillaz, they're like a huge band. That famous sample that they use was off some kind of thrift shop, kind of weird toy thing. They just plugged it in and go, there you go.
Or Clint Eastwood. Yeah, Damon Albarn from Blur, who basically is Gorillaz, if nobody knew that. Yeah, he had it was like a little Casio, and he had it since he was, 15 or 16 years old. And it had a silly little sample where you could hit one key and that one key would play a little beat and a little progression. And made a whole song out of it.
Yeah.
And that's amazing. So the whole gas thing, like I said, it's affected every single one of my students to where they start asking me more questions about gear than music theory. And
Yeah, this is the thing. This is why kids shouldn't be allowed on the internet.
No, I agree.
Well, we didn't grow up with the internet. Like, I mean, it's not such a boomer now. But what I mean is, it's like children constantly, like I say children, so basically anyone under the age of like 16 is basically a child in my eyes. They're constantly plugged into, I mean, literally, every day when I'm driving my car, I'll nearly run over some school kid because they're just like looking at their phone. They just walk out into the road. They literally just step out. They're not even aware there's a road there, and they'll just step out. And it's like they're so plugged into this like matrix of just nonsense. They're not even looking up anything. So, and it's in all these platforms, all of them. They're all just advertising platforms. It's just like TikTok. It's just people just shilling stuff, trying to get you to buy something, or do this, or buy this, or you know. And then you get all these like body positivity things that come out of it, or body issue, perception issues, or whatever they are now, and you know, like toxic productivity and all that kind of nonsense. It's just it's crazy. Like, it's crazy. I'm almost hoping that when my boys teenagers, that it kind of will have gone full circle, and people will be like, no, we don't want to go online. We're kind of bored with that. It's just marketing. Hopefully. I don't think it will, but they probably will have like chips in the head at that point. Just be like integrating with people like on the sofa, just with a drips in your arm, getting vital nutrients while you wear like virtual reality headset and live somebody else's life as they go about doing something interesting.
Yeah, it'll be like that movie WALL-E.
Yeah.
Robot. Yeah, and all the humans.
Well, that's the next step, isn't it? I was thinking about it
useless.
That's the next logical step. Like, people, this voyeuristic thing that was so alien when it first came out is like you basically just watching people live their lives, and people sharing like intimate details of their lives with you online just so they can sell you some crap or get some free crap from someone so they can live in a house full of free stuff they didn't pay for. That was so, like 15 years ago, that was so weird. You'd never do that, but now it's so normal. And the next logical step from that is that people just are going to start live streaming their house, and then they're going to start like, can you imagine it? They'll wear like a little, like, because they already got these like smart glasses, right? You can see out of. So these influencers will then soon, I think this is my theory, will start wearing like these smart glasses or even like smart contact lenses, so you can see out of their eyes. And then you can basically pay a subscription to them, and then you'll be able to like live their life through their eyes and just sort of go like, and just have this like super immersive experience of being an interesting person.
And you're like wearing your Apple Vision Pro while you're going shopping with Khloe Kardashian.
I don't know, it's just some weird stuff. You know, it's going to get weird. I mean, it's weird already, so things are going to get much weirder.
That almost makes me want what happens in DUNE to happen.
I haven't seen it yet, so.
Oh, well, it's kind of a preface to the entire book. Humanity destroyed intelligent machines because they started attacking humanity. And there was like a rise of AI and everything. That's why everything in the DUNE universe is kind of low tech. Like, sure, they have spaceships, but only humans can drive them.
Yeah.
And
it's very astute.
I kind of want that to happen, and that's why I picked this topic, because I knew we would get philosophical on it, because it is kind of a philosophical thing. If you're always looking for the next best thing, you're never going to be happy with what you have. And if you're never happy and content with what you have, I think that's going to stifle your creativity.
Yeah, and also make you miserable. And
right.
Your life will just feel unfulfilled because you're looking in all the wrong places for a sense of meaning, and which is really sad. But that's, this is what I mean. I'm not a socialist by any stretch of the word, but that's kind of the main attack of on capitalism, is that it's just this soulless, constant consumerism. Like, you need the next thing, you need it now, and you need more. And you have to subjugate people to make the prices lower and all that kind of stuff. Whereas, like, for instance, a company like Apple, obviously they work with their shareholders, but they have all these pretenses about being this kind of like stupidly woke company. And, we do all this stuff, and oh my God, look at us, we're a liberal arts company. When they just work with their shareholders. So, for instance, they don't need to release a new iPhone every single year. They could go to a 2-year cycle. If they were really on doing stuff for the environment and making their carbon footprint less.
That's what I was about to say.
They
If they really cared about the environment.
Yeah, just really go change your hardware cycle. Release the phone every 2 years. Because I've got an iPhone 13, right? We're going to be on the iPhone 16 at the end of this year. It works fine. I literally don't have a single problem with it. Like, it's fine.
Well, and it's the same thing with guitars. I mean,
they can't do that because the shareholders won't allow them to do it because the shareholders want constant growth. Unless a company like Apple became like a public company, which it never would, a private company, which it never would be, then you can't really do that. Then you've got crazies like Elon Musk who wanted to trying to take Tesla private, but that's a whole other kettle of fish. But their model is different though. They only do 4 models that I'm aware of.
Right.
So, it's not quite the same as they don't release a new model every single year. They do like a refresh every 4 or 5 years. That's probably what needs to happen with phones and tech because we don't need a new iPhone every year. We don't need, Samsung doesn't need to make 150 phones. It makes literally a phone for every single price you can think of. $999. Yeah, it's a Samsung Galaxy N59-1. What about $59.99? Oh yeah, that's a Galaxy G649. It's that they've got literally one for everything. It's crazy.
And that's kind of how guitar marketing has become. And every year we get these new releases, and Fender's probably the main. Well, I'd say Gibson is probably the main offender. Fender and Gibson. Let's say both of them. Because their designs haven't really changed at all.
No, they really haven't.
What they do is they release new colors, or they have purposeful restriction on certain models. So like you can have a Stratocaster, but you can't have it with a 2-point bridge unless you buy this version.
That'd be the cussiest job in the world, wouldn't you? If you could get a designer job at Gibson, you're basically made for life.
You just pick color palettes.
Yeah, I'm just head of industrial design. What do you do every day? I just sit at my desk and play solitaire.
I've been playing Minesweeper for 10 years.
I've been in charge of design at Gibson since 1968. I haven't done a day's work in my life. I picked out a bunch
of colors.
Yeah, literally. I wouldn't even do that. You just get the intern to do that.
There are companies though that are progressing and they are doing interesting things. I think Strandberg, they're doing really interesting things with guitar and trying to
I do
make
think
it
they
more
look hideous,
ergonomic.
though. I really hate those headless guitars, especially the really angular ones. They kind of always remind me like something that Predator would play if he could play guitar and he was real.
No, I agree.
From the movie Predator, not like just a Predator, like the Predator. Like I imagine he'd play Strandberg.
I mean, it does kind of look alien, but I mean, it is technically the most ergonomic and most comfortable guitar you can play, which is really funny. It's kind of a cosmic joke that it has to look like that to be perfect, but you don't really need perfect. But there are plenty of companies that are, not just relying on their old models, and they're coming up with new stuff all the time. And they're coming up with, different ways to wire pickups, and they're coming up with different hardware options and different types of bridges. There's always innovation going, and I'm all for innovation. But
yeah, totally. I don't think it's not, to be honest, I don't really think it's, companies are always going to market. They're always going to sell stuff. But it's a buyer's market. That's what I mean. If people were a little bit more savvy and this whole gas thing, or whatever it's called, is a thing, they're obviously going to exploit that because why not? It's like on, Reddit when you see people posting, they've got like 15 Gibson Les Pauls, and it's just like all in the same color. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, why have you got 15 and all in the same color as well? It's like, what's the point? What are you getting out of that? Obviously, they probably got worth a lot of money and there's a lot of value, but I don't know. I just wouldn't put stuff like that on the internet because someone can trace your location so easily and then just come and rob you.
Yeah, that's true.
Literally, you got 15 Gibson Les Pauls in your house. That's probably what? How much is that?
$50,000, you know? Yeah.
Maybe
that's a lot
probably more. Yeah.
That's a lot of damn money.
Yeah.
But
stop posting stuff online with all pictures of all your expensive stuff if you don't want to get your house burgled. Particularly if you live in America, for Christ's sake. Oh my God. People have guns there, you know. I mean,
everyone has guns here.
Yeah, but here, guns like, you know, a unicorn. Someone pulls a gun, it's on like mainstream news for like weeks. Like, man has gun in London. It's like, oh my God. But America, God, everyone's got guns.
While Gibson and Fender are definitely guilty of playing into people's gas by having restrictive options, I think PRS has like mastered it. And the best example I can think of is the Silver Sky. So when the Silver Sky came out, it was a USA only model. And it was like that for years. And people were like, when's the SE model going to come out? And
you wait.
You know, absolute silence.
Yeah. That's
and then they suddenly drop it.
That's easy. It's like,
but when they drop it, it's only a few colors, and it's only with rosewood fretboards, which is not what John Mayer plays. So everybody freaked out over that. And then 2 years down the road, they finally released maple fretboards with a couple of different colors. And it's like, they're just perfect at this. They are so good at this because they've got you to buy it once, and now you're going to buy it again because it has slightly different features.
I don't know. I would buy it twice.
They're masters of it.
But then,
yeah, if you're wondering what this gas thing is, get on the Reddit forums. It's crazy.
I'm on Reddit. I'm in there. I'm in the trenches.
Yeah, it's crazy how many posts are on there. It's like, I have a Gibson Les Paul and a Strat and a Strandberg and an Ibanez 7-string, and I'm just really looking for this tone. And
learn to play better.
Dude, you've got it. Yeah. Whatever tone it is you're looking for, if you have an Ibanez, a Strandberg, a Gibson, and a Fender, yeah, you've got it. Whatever you're looking for, you already have it.
You just don't have the chops to do it.
Right. And that's my main takeaway from all of this is it's really taking away from people playing. And like I said, all of my students have this problem, and I get so many questions about gear, and I don't mind answering them. And especially, when they come through the Electric Jam channels, I don't mind answering those questions. I love it. I think it's fun. I think gear is fun, but I don't think it should be an obsession to where you're always looking for the next best thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, Christ, I come from my experience playing guitar is the only guitar I had for years was we talked about this on one of the earlier podcasts, was a Yamaha that sounded deader than Mussolini. It was horrific. I mean, you could barely play it. I took it to a guy to see if he could fix it up, and he said it was the worst guitar he'd ever played. So, and I had that for years. I had literally pretty much learned everything on that. And then I'd come home, my dad had these like super expensive acoustic guitars, like a Guild, a Taylor, and a Gibson. I played down and just be like, oh my God. Like,
a totally different experience.
It's like, it's an appreciation there. That's the thing. It's like, I was just like, wow. It's like an aspirational thing. It's like, when I get good enough, I'm going to get one of these. Because I didn't think I was good enough to spend a load of money on the guitar, because it just wasn't worth it, because I wasn't good enough. And as I've got older,
that's a bad excuse, by the way.
I've got a few guitars, but none of them are super expensive. But they kind of get the job done. That's all I need. I don't need a 7-string or the only thing I'm a bit gassy about is I think is a baritone guitar. I really want a baritone guitar just because I'd like to have that, like, it's one guitar that's like tuned to like C standard, and it actually feels good rather than it just being like a 6-string tuned down to C standard or B standard, because it's just I hate playing like down tuned 6 strings. I hate it. Even like D standard, it just feels off. It just doesn't feel right. I know it's like strings and stuff, but
no, I'm the same way. That's why I have 7 strings.
Because you get used to the tension in the strings, right? You get used to the tension in the strings, and then you knock it all down, and it plays different. It feels different, and I think if I just had a baritone guitar, my life would be complete, and I'd be happy.
Well, Yeah, I'm thinking
That's my only
about,
gas thing. That's literally my only gassy moment that I have. Everything else I couldn't care less about, like amps and all that kind of stuff and pedals. Just a few pedals, crappy little amp, all you need, and then you got your computer, which you can do everything on.
yeah, I've got, if I'm being gassy myself about anything, it's getting rid of my 2 7-strings, just getting rid of them and getting a baritone, because I find that I don't use the 7-string to its full potential. Not like I used
I get
to.
that. I don't think. I think as well, a baritone guitar, tonally, in the mix, live, just when you're playing, sounds so much better than a 7-string guitar anyway.
Well, my 7-string is a baritone, both of them.
But no, but like a 6-string one, because it just doesn't seem to have that same like wah 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 as a
Right.
It doesn't have that super fat string that I don't know. There's just something tonally about it. Because I noticed when I saw ISIS years ago, I thought they were both playing baritones, and I was like, right, okay, because they had this really cool, so it's a really heavy sound, but it's very clear. There's a lot of clarity in it, and there's no like, like that proper low end kind of new era Deftones kind of like sound to it. It sounded like just a 6-string tune. Down, so you get all the tonal stuff of like a stand, like it's almost like you get like the clarity of standard tuning, but it's obviously a lot lower. And I just thought it sounded just way better, and I was kind of like, that's how I was like my first kind of taste of baritone guitars, and I've been thinking about it ever since, and that was years ago.
Well, I've always had the problem with 7-strings, because that's what I played those for almost 20 years exclusively, because I loved that low B string. And the problem was Ibanez was pretty much the only manufacturer when I started playing 7s. So I got used to that.
New metal, wasn't it? The new metal kind of corn.
Yeah,
did it.
Exactly. And I got used to that 25.5 scale length. And that low B just never sounded right until I got these 2 7-strings that I have right now, because they're 26.5. So baritone's technically 27, but 26.5 is, pretty damn close. And you're right, it is night and day, because I don't have to use a thick string for that B. Yeah, and when I hit that B, it's tight, you know, but I'm not utilizing it all. So I'm thinking just get a baritone and get rid of the 7-strings, because at this point, they're kind of like a novelty. I'm going to be real with myself. I only use those top 3 or 4 strings. After that, I'm not playing solos on these things.
Yeah, exactly. And I just
why not just get a baritone?
Yeah.
That's my only gas. Like, I'm not sitting around like, I don't have pages saved of guitars where I'm like pining after them or anything like that. I mean, if anything, I get on Photoshop and I kind of create my own guitar sometime. Like if Schecter was like, hey, Chris, we're going to make you one. I'd be like, build this. But
here it is.
I've got 17 drafts of it.
I got like an image of Homer Simpson's car when you said that. It's the weirdest looking guitar anyone's ever seen. It's got wings and a fishbowl. It's great.
But yeah, I guess to kind of wrap up the whole gas subject is, I don't know, if you're really in the position to where you have like the worst guitar, like Richard was talking about earlier, and it's actually hindering you from playing, and you're gassing for this instrument that's much better, and it's going to be better, that's kind of different. But if you're like me and you have a rack of guitars sitting behind you in a studio, and you're still scrolling, like doom scrolling through guitars all day, you got a problem.
Doom scrolling. That's why it's called doom scrolling.
Exactly. You've got a problem.
Yeah, just go for a walk.
There's got to be one out of all of your guitars that you like. Like I'm looking at my guitars right now, and if I had to pick out 2, and that's all I could own, I know exactly which 2 they would be. And I'd be fine with that. Everything else is just, it's mostly for other people that come in, and they want to record something. I've got a different, arsenal. So they can pick
no, I
stuff,
get that.
But I only really play 2 of these guitars. And that's like what we were talking about 2 weeks ago, where even these famous people like Steve Vai, he has Flow, Evo, Onyx, and one other guitar, because he names all of them. And that's what he uses all the time. So
yeah, well, that's, you like say, you get used to a certain thing, and I think it's like anything though. Once you like, it's not the same, but I get a lot of because I'm been a tag journalist, you get sent loads of stuff for like just for free to review or test out, and you know, most of it, at the first it's like really novel. You're like, wow, got all this cool stuff, but you know, most of it, I just don't even open it now. Just sits on my shelf because I've got a phone that I like. I've got other people that do the reviews and stuff because I hate writing reviews, particularly on tech stuff. I hate it. And I've got, you know, headphones that I like that I bought. Yeah, I think as you get older as well, I think, because we're both like 40s, late 30s, 40s, you kind of move away from that kind of like, I need everything, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. You kind of just get, I think you kind of know, you know, more about like where you're at and what you need. You don't, you know, you're not too interested in stuff that's like surplus to requirements. And if you need like, you know, like say for instance, the guitar, like the only guitar I'd actually buy now, like if someone gave me some money and said, you have to buy a guitar with it, I'd go, okay, I'll get a baritone because I kind of want one because it'd be useful. But that's it. There isn't really anything else. I wouldn't be, you know, and like with like say with all the gear, it's all the accoutrements. I think that's the real one with like the, you know, because there's so many different things you could even like. That's just, you know, even if you're talking about pedals, so there's a lot because you get it with pedals, and then you've got different like these little sort of smart amp boxes that are coming out, like, you know, the Boss IR and the Line 6 Express, Pod Express, and it's just so much little gizmos and gadgets and stuff. Which are all kind of aimed, I guess, into like sort of beginner intermediate level as well. So, which is obviously a growth market. So it's hard. I get why people kind of get a bit sort of obsessed with it.
Yeah,
because it's hard as well because it's finding the tone. The way they're marketed, it's like, oh, this is, you know, unbelievable tone, unbelievable clarity and sound. And you're like, really? That's what my playing's really lacking. Maybe this will help. And you know, it's not. So, sorry, my dog's going absolutely bananas. I think he can hear you, you know. I think that's what it is, because he doesn't really bark unless someone's outside. No one's outside. But anytime we try to do a podcast, he'll just go absolutely like nuts. I think he can hear you talking on my headphones.
That's so weird.
Who knows? But anyway, that's a very good place to wrap up, I reckon.
Yeah, absolutely.
In case my dog's going to go even more mental.
Yeah, take a look at your stuff and maybe take a different look at it and appreciate it a little bit more, because you've probably got everything you need to write the most compelling album in the world. You just I mean, Christ, need to do it.
If you've got a computer, a 500, you know, even a half decent electric guitar, you know, and the internet access, you've got more equipment than, you know, pretty much every single album recorded before the 1990s. So,
yep. But we'll see you next week. As always, subscribe to the email list if you're not already on there. We've been putting out videos every week for everyone, and those don't go live to YouTube until 2 weeks after. So if you want to be the first to get the videos, got to sign up for our email list, and the link will be down in the description of this video, as it always is. And we will see you next week. Yeah, it's not, I just want to add one other thing as well. If you go to the site now, there's a little pop-up that's running that's got kind of like a little primer on modes. So if you want to get like a little downloadable piece of content that will kind of walk you through, you know, the basics of like guitar modes specifically for metal. So, you know, taking a basic riff you've got maybe working on, you can sort of add some, you know, pizzazz to it with using. That's really helpful stuff too. Yeah, it is really helpful because it just opens the fretboard up way more, and we kind of done it in a way it's kind of like the absolute basics you need to know. There's no technical kind of, you know, jargon and stuff. It's literally, there's some diagrams, there's some text that explains it as clearly as possible, and you can sort of pick and choose which one you want, and then you can move all over the neck, so you're kind of good to go. And it's a really useful little thing. It's free. It's 100% free. So if you go onto electricjam.com, you should see it at some point when you're on the site. If not, there's loads of sign up forms on the site too. So yeah, I just wanted to add that in there because it's quite useful.
Because I actually was using it the other day, and I was like, actually, this is really useful, because there's one couple I didn't know, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. So yeah, if you want to get that, and it works on tablet, just basically just a PDF, but when you download it, it'll resize to whatever screen you're looking on. So if you're on a phone, you can use it. If you're on a tablet, you can use it on there on your computer. So yeah,
awesome. But yep, we will see you next week.
Cool. See you next week. Take care.